I will offer my thoughts on how to learn and code in the age of AI by trying to answer two simple questions. First question I'll answer is, should I learn to code? And the second question I'll try to answer is, how should I code? Maybe a better way to ask this question is, how should I use AI assistants? Let's begin by answering the first question. Let's begin by finding out how many lines of code is an average simple web app in Python. So here we have some answers, about 400 lines of code. Some people say iPhone app is less than about 50,000 lines of code. So approximately speaking, about 900 to 3,800 lines of code makes for a simple web app. So let's remember this and take note of this. Let's try to find out how many lines of code is Photoshop. It says 10 million lines of code. And the original, first version of Photoshop had 128,000 lines of code. So let's take a note of this as well. Let's try to find out how many lines of code is Windows 11. Anywhere from 60 to 100 million. Let's take a note of this as well. So why did we do this? Because currently, if you ask ChatGPT to write you a full stack web app, it will not output more than 200 to 300 lines of code, and it will also make some design decisions. Here, we are using Fast API, and it's choosing to use Jinja 2 templates, and it is also choosing to use regular CSS. So now let me answer the question. Yes, you should learn programming, most definitely, and offer you the reasons why. In my opinion, practically speaking, code per useful component in an application, whether it's a simple web app or Photoshop, is about 100 to 500. Currently, ChatGPT would like to output about 200 to 300 lines of code, but really when you're working on an app, you are going to be focusing on the components of the app, and you're probably going to generate up to 500 to maybe max 1,000 lines of code per component. So even if in the future ChatGPT were to output thousands of lines of code, it might mean that you or she would still probably like to generate about 100 to 500. Now, the second part is this design choices. If we go back to our Fast API app, like we said, we are using here Jinja templates, and also we are using CSS. So there is probably at least a half a dozen different ways we can actually configure this application. And GPT just went ahead and chose one. Essentially, it made a design choice for you. But in the future, as you become more competent with programming, and as ChatGPT or GPT or AI-powered assistance tools become better and better, you will want to build apps that consist of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and eventually millions of lines of code as AI-powered tools get better and better. And you're going to have to make design choices every step of the way. You cannot just let ChatGPT choose the design choices for you. It will depend on what your client wants, your needs, your objectives, the database choices, for example. And if you didn't learn programming and were just relying on exactly just the natural language descriptions or instructions to the language model, then the model is going to make a lot of design choices for you, and you're going to end up with some application that you don't really exactly know how it works. That's why learning programming is going to give you the general ideas about how to program, and therefore you can make design choices. For example, in the case of this simple web app, we could have used Flask or Django or perhaps other frameworks as well. So if you didn't know, at least if you haven't heard of Django or Fast API, how could you even ask ChatGPT to use? Because even in the future, when GPT becomes much more powerful, it will still have to code in Python using one of these frameworks, at least in the near future. So now let me try to answer the second question on how to use AI assistants when coding. Let's start with an example. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write a Python script which calls GPT API to generate a snake game. And as we can see, it's using the old completion endpoint and trying to use DaVinci Codex. This is completely not what we wanted. So I'll have to give some more details. I'm just going to say use GPT-4 model. Let's see what it does. Okay, it is trying to use the model GPT-4, but still trying to use the completion endpoint. This is also mistaken. And in fact, this code won't work. Now let's alter it a little bit. Use the new library and chat completions endpoint. See what happens. Okay, now we're making the correct call with the messages, but we are still referring to the old library. So at the end of the day, so we tried 3 times and didn't succeed, but even just to try this, we had to input details of GPT-4 model, that we had knowledge of a new library, and we knew that chat.completions exist. So I'm assuming that if you're learning programming, then you will be looking at the ChatGPT's OpenAI's API, and you'll have to learn how the syntax is written. So without knowing how to program, you won't be able to guide the model on producing the outcome that you're looking for. This brings me to the first tip that I have, that is probably the one that I use the most, is that you need some sample code, especially for the newer libraries, the newer technologies. You need some sample code to inspire GPT. This also brings me to my course, Everything GPT API course, which is available at Patreon. Link is in the description. And I use this all the time. I build it for trying to offer assistance to people if they're trying to learn coders, if they're trying to learn OpenAI API. But also, this has code blocks, which I use all the time. This is a streaming response. Here's a response that I can get from chat.completions without streaming. Here's an example with JSON mode. I don't remember this every time. And if you don't have these code examples, code snippets available to you, then you would have to dig through them from the documentation of OpenAI. You'd have to go find text generation, chat completions here. But if you don't know how to get a response, you'd have to scroll down and find this. And this is not the correct way to do it with the new library, because these have to be called as attributes, as shown here. So you'd have to do a lot of digging in documentation, whether it's OpenAI's API or OpenAI documentation or Django documentation, Fast API documentation, Matplotlib documentation. It doesn't matter. You'd have to go and find the type of code that you're looking for, especially if you're making a design choice. What do I mean by design choice here? See, I'm going to make a GPT API call. Well, do I need to make it with streaming responses? What is the parameter that I need to set? Also, when I'm receiving the responses, how am I supposed to loop over them and process them? And how can I print them to the terminal? And if I'm printing to the terminal, but let's say I wanted to build a web app, how am I going to display it? Let's say with Streamlit in a streaming fashion. So all these include great consideration, and GPT can help you quite a lot. But you do have to know what you're dealing with and where you should be probing and what kind of questions you should be asking. Another example is that if you didn't know that JSON mode existed, then you couldn't even, you wouldn't be able to ask GPT to write you an API call with JSON response. Same thing goes with seed parameter or mixed tokens, for example. Another example is how to make a call to, for example, value3 and what parameters are available. So let's try our original example again, including with streaming responses. Now I'm going to go back to GPT. I'm saying here's a sample API call we want to use, and I just copy pasted this as I've told you. Okay, and I'm asking here, please create a class for this chat app, which runs a while loop and allows you to talk with GPT, modify messages list as necessary. And now we're getting something which we can use. We're not only getting a class, we are actually initializing the messages, and we are taking user input. We have nice methods with a while loop, which takes in user input. Now this should work. I'm going to paste this here. I just set that back to print statement here, but let's just run it. Now I think we should have a working chat application. Let's try saying hi, and here we go. We printed the response in real time. So this was very easy, right? Now we can work with this. We can build on top of this, but we had to actually know what we were going for, and we had to make some design choices. And the beautiful part of all this is that when you start with some useful code snippet and build something like this is a chat app that runs with 40 lines of code, you can actually really utilize the power of AI. Here, we are running messages. Okay, we have a system message. We are taking user message. And it is, as a matter of fact, appending it to the messages. But perhaps we wanted to handle it with a different method. Now we can actually enter the realm of Copilot. And I can actually go here and try to make a method called addMessage, and Copilot should handle it for me. But as you see, this addMessage actually strictly uses the user. But all I have to do is maybe go back. Okay, and maybe add a role and some content. And now actually it's using the role and the content to add the messages. So now we can go ahead and actually delete these line and initialize an empty dictionary. List, and make a comment saying add a system message to the start of the conversation. It wanted to do it with an append, but I'm going to say using the method below, and self.addMessage as a system message because it's referring to the method which we have added here. So as you can see now, it really knows its way around the code. It still needs some guidance, and we are offering it. And now actually, I believe if we were to just delete this, yeah, the Copilot offers us the perfect code. Well, we made our job much easier because we started with something we know, and we made some design choices, like such as the streaming response and the model choice. And we decided to go with object-oriented structure for our code, and just simply made our life much easier. Therefore, we started from a good place, and then we made our process of coding much easier. That's why I think Everything GPT API course is a valuable asset. It's available at Patreon at the connoisseur level. It has GPT Vision speech examples, instructor examples, which helps quite a lot with function calling, DALL-E 3 and text-to-speech examples, and assistance responses, assistance API examples. So all this should really, all this was designed to help you get going. But in any way, it doesn't matter whether you get the GPT API, everything GPT API course or not. The most important thing is to diligently and one step at a time learn coding, and then so that you know your way around, always looking at documentation. I love reading through documentation. I am actually just now learning React. And if I were to go to, and I'm looking at the W3 schools, if I go here, I was going through React, the React course. And I was diving deep until about 5-6 of these. And after that, I was coding and I was truly trying to understand, and it's a lot of fun. But after that, I just started reading, okay? And now, when you just read through documentation, that doesn't mean you understand it and you can use it, but actually, you familiarize yourself with it. So I know more give or take what a use state is and use effect is. And now I can actually, if I'm building a React app, I can know what to ask GPT, and I can actually have some idea of where the direction where we're going is correct or not. So these are some philosophical thoughts and some practical tips and tricks that I wanted to share with you. I will be making more videos about this, but do let me know if you like this. And I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you enjoy my content, you can find all my videos at my website, echohive.live. You can browse through it or search for the content you're looking for. You can read through the descriptions, and if you're a patron, you can just click and find the code download links. And the code files are always attached to the end of the post. You can also check out this other app that I built, CodeHive, which includes over 900 GPT-powered Python chat applications. You can just browse through this. I created this as a way to inspire you, or maybe get to get you going, and the ideas of how different concepts using GPT API might work. It's a free app. Feel free to browse around, copy the code, and just put it in your IDE, and you should be good to go. And if you wanted to download all 900 plus apps, then you can actually download it from my Patreon for $100 as well. And you'll find the link to my GPT masterclass as well, the one I was talking about. I'll put the link in the description anyways. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.